13-year-old boy walks out of his home on a quiet afternoon in Dublin. He's not running away. He's not in trouble. He's simply going back to school. A short walk, a familiar route. 15 minutes, that's all it should have taken. But Philip Cairns never makes it. No one sees him arrive. No one reports hearing anything. No struggle, no scream, just silence. And what comes next will leave investigators asking the same question for decades. How does a child disappear in broad daylight without a trace? October 23rd, 1986, Dublin, Ireland. Philip Cairns is 13 years old, a normal teenager, quiet, routine, the kind of boy who follows his schedule. The morning begins like any other. He goes to school, attends his classes. At lunchtime, he walks home. This was part of his daily routine, nothing unusual. He eats, he spends little time working on school assignments. Everything about that day feels completely ordinary. Then, in the early afternoon, Philip leaves his home again. He is heading back to school. That moment is the last confirmed time anyone sees him alive, according to official guards' records. The walk between his home and school is short, less than 15 minutes. A route he knew well, a route he had taken many times before. There were houses, neighbors passing, people. This was not an isolated area, and yet Philip never arrives. No teacher reports seeing him, no classmates remember him returning, and most importantly, no confirmed witness ever comes forward to say they saw him along the way. It is as if he vanished between 2 points on a map, home and school. At first, the situation is confusing. Maybe he got delayed. Maybe he went somewhere else. But as time passes, that confusion turns into fear. Philip doesn't come home. His family knows something is wrong, and soon the guards are contacted. What begins as a missing person case quickly becomes something much bigger. Search teams are deployed. Officers begin combing through nearby areas, field, laneways, wooded sections. Volunteers join the effort. Posters appear across Dublin. His face becomes known. His routine is reconstructed. Every detail is examined. Where he walked, who he spoke to, what time he left. But despite all of this, there is no sign of Philip. No clothing, no belongings, no confirmed sighting, nothing. Days pass, and then, 6 days after he disappears, something is found. 2 girls walking through a laneway notice a schoolbag. They look closer. It belongs to Philip. At first, this seems like the break investigator needed. Finally, a piece of physical evidence, something real, something that could lead somewhere. But then, the detail that changes everything comes to light. That exact location had already been searched. Police had been there before. They had looked, and the bag was not there. Now the question becomes inevitable. How does a missing boy's school bag appear in a place already searched? There are only 2 explanations. Either investigators somehow missed it, or someone placed it there after Philip had already disappeared. And if that's true, then someone returned to the scene after the case had started, after the searches began, after the area was already under attention. That is not random behavior. That is deliberate. Inside the bag, most of Philip's belongings are still there. Pens, copybox, school materials. But not everything. Some school books are missing. And this detail raises even more questions. Why take only certain items? Why leave the rest behind? Why not remove the bag entirely? Because leaving the bag feels intentional, almost like a message. Think about it. If someone wanted to hide what happened, why return anything at all? Unless they wanted the bag to be found. Years pass and the case begins to shift from urgent to unresolved. Then a man comes forward. He claims involvement, a confession. For a moment, it looks like the case might finally have answers. But investigators examine the detail and they reject it. The confession is considered unreliable, not supported by evidence, not consistent with known facts. And just like that, one of the only direct claims in the case is dismissed. Time continues to move forward. Decades pass. Then, a new suspect emerges. A man already linked to serious crimes against children. Investigators began to focus on him. Witnesses come forward. Connections are explored. The possibility that Philip was specifically targeted becomes more real. But once again, no charges are brought. No definitive evidence connected him to the disappearance, and before answers can be fully established, the suspect dies, taking whatever he knew with him. And this is where the case becomes deeply frustrating, because over the years, there have been consistent criticism of how the investigation was handled. Early decisions, how evidence was managed, opportunities that may have been missed. Even later searches based on new information have failed to produce results. And so today, Philip remains missing. Nobody has ever found. No one has ever been charged. And nearly 40 years later, his disappearance remains one of Ireland's most well-known unsolved cases. So now, we step back and we look at what we know. A boy disappears in the middle of the day on a short familiar route in a populated area with no confirmed witnesses. Then, days later, his school bag appears in a location already searched, with items missing and no explanation why. That alone changes everything, because it suggested something that investigators have never been able to prove, but also never been able to dismiss. Someone was watching. Someone knew the investigation was happening. Someone knew where police had already searched. And someone felt confident enough to return and place that bag exactly where it would be found. That's not panic. That is not chaos. That is control. And maybe that's the most disturbing part of this entire case, because it means whoever was responsible was not afraid. So now, after nearly 4 decades, the question remains: who took Philip? Was he targeted or was it random? Why were specific items removed from his bag? Was the wrong suspect pursued while the real answer slipped away? And the biggest question of all, how does a child disappear in broad daylight and leave behind almost nothing, except one clue that only creates more questions? This case has never been solved, but it has never been forgotten, because somewhere in Dublin, on an ordinary afternoon, a boy walked out of his home and never come back, and the truth may still be out there. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think happened to Philip? Do you believe the bag was planted? Do you think this was planned? Or there is something in this case that investigators missed completely? Because sometimes the truth isn't hidden. It's ignored. Thank you.